Good evening from Raleigh, North Carolina on Tuesday, January the 16th, 2018 at approximately 8:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And remember to make all decisions based on official forecast products released from the National Weather Service, and that in this video there is just some light analysis and some of my opinions with some of the data. But remember to make all those official decisions based on trusted sources and forecasts from government entities only. So we're still talking winter weather, the likelihood of snow tomorrow, and that's why you see this winter storm warning rather here for about 4.1 million people or so. You have this half of the National Weather Service Raleigh County warning area with 2 million or so people in that population, and then 2.1 million it looks like down into Union and Lancaster and Chesterfield County down here in South Carolina. And you see that's the whole bullseye on the central North Carolina here. And that's issued for about 2 to 4 inches of snow with locally higher amounts, and that all precipitation is going to be coming in the next 24 hours. And actually, the precipitation is expected to the onset of that's expected maybe in the next 6 hours or so, at about 2 to 4 a.m., maybe getting into the triad and beginning to develop quickly over spreading central North Carolina and bringing some major impacts to roads, which is the main concern with this because of the cold surface temperatures. Cold soil temperatures and surface temperatures leading to roads quickly deteriorating if that snow falls very quickly. It is expected that there could be some pretty high snow ratios, as mentioned in the National Weather Service Raleigh's forecast discussion, which basically means with the same amount of liquid, we could get bigger flakes and more rapid accumulations than you may normally get here in North Carolina, just to the nature of the system, which we'll go over in just a second. But you can see here the winter storm warnings in place. That is the highest level of a winter storm threat. So this is obviously, an imminent threat of winter weather coming in the next several hours. So if you've yet to make any preparations or are unaware of what's going on, you must be living under a rock at this point. But there is a winter storm warning out. And you need to make sure that if you have any plans to commute tomorrow morning, that you leave with ample amount of time. But if you can avoid it at all, I would avoid any commute, any kind of driving at all tomorrow. I posted on Facebook earlier, if I were you, I would stay off the roads anytime between 9 p.m. tonight and 5 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. So this winter storm warning goes through, I think, 11 p.m. tomorrow night, if I'm not mistaken. So just to cover all bases, just avoid any outdoor travel tomorrow, if at all possible, because of that. And you'll have to excuse me, I'm going through a little cold right now, so my voice sounds a little fuzzy. But so that's the situation on the warnings here. And you see kind of the gaps here because it looks like the snow is actually going to kind of skip over here. There might be some flurries or light snow in here, but it's really going to develop in kind of the warnings here, because the 2 to 4 inches is warning criteria, specifically 4 inches, because that's enough snow in this area to cause major issues. Whereas somewhere up north they could handle 4 inches of snow, but this area is just not equipped, climatologically speaking, to handle that. So that's why we're in the warning here, and some of these other areas are just under the advisory. But anywhere in this area you can expect, anywhere from 1 to 4 inches of snow, with this area kind of tighter in here, expecting 2 to 4 inches with locally higher amounts possible if in heavier snow. But I spent enough time on this slide, so let's move on to talking about, we're in that time frame now where we're kind of dealing with the nowcasting. We've looked at the models, we've talked about the models, we've done all the modelology and the model mania, seeing who's right and who's wrong. But it's time to look at now, observations downstream are always more important than model data. So when the event is imminent and coming within the next 12 hours or so, it's important to look at what's happening and see if that's verifying in the short term and the high resolution models that we'll look at in a second, to see if it's initializing properly. And if it's not doing that, you may still be getting kind of a different signal. That's what happened with the last storm. It was actually showing some more moisture, and that's what led to that initial kind of burst. If you remember in the last storm with southern pines in the area and the sandhills getting a quick burst of snow because on the radar there was something that the models were not picking up. So that's an important feature to notice. But here we have our lower level water vapor imagery from our GOES 16 or GOES East satellite, I should say. We're on band 10 here for the ABI bands. And what you're seeing here is you're seeing all this dry air behind us. You're seeing a cold front here, and I'll get my marker out to telestrate on this. And you can see we have our cold front back in this area. That's not a very thick line. And our cold front back in this area, and it is heading off to the east here. And what's actually happening is you have this stream of moisture and you have relatively warmer air. It's not really warm. It doesn't feel warm to us outside, but back here it's just absolutely frigid. But over here we're in the 40s, maybe some, the topped out in the lower 50s down here in the deep south today, but relatively warmer air, and that air is being pushed up over top of this cold front because remember, cold air is more dense than warm air, so cold air is going to sink. If warm air and cold air meet, if they're coming towards each other, the warm air is going to go above, the cold air is going to go under. So this warm air is going above this cold air, and that's what's going to give our precipitation tomorrow. You don't see it reflected here because I just drew the arrows here, but what's going to happen is if I clear this, this cold front's eventually going to come into, you can't really see that too well, get this worked out. The cold front's eventually, tomorrow, early tomorrow morning, going to be in a position like this, and you're going to have relatively warmer air overriding this, and it's going to produce lift, and you're going to have this area precipitation kind of form here and slowly migrate its way east. So that's what's kind of, this is an antifrontal system. It's kind of running with the front. It's not a very a typical case we have here. It's kind of an unusual system. Usually we have coastal storms that wind up here and they're throwing moisture in from the Atlantic, but we actually have a case where this storm is going to be primarily associated with the cold front, which is kind of unique. It's going to be interesting to see how the storm pans out in terms of its intensity and how much snow actually does fall, because it's pretty unique to have a system like this to produce this much snow across central North Carolina as forecast. But remember that confidence remains high, so we are expecting that 2 to 4 inches, even though the signal, typically with this system like this, it may not be the most intense, but it looks like this is going to be an exception to that rule where we have some significant accumulating snow causing some major travel issues tomorrow. So speaking of the nowcasting thing, let's look at the radar right now, and this is looking at the National Weather Service Enhanced Data Display. And here we are in central North Carolina here. I'm here in Raleigh. Here's the Triad area, and here's Charlotte and that little cluster of interstate roads right here. And you can see the radar down here, very heavy down here in southern Louisiana through Mississippi and Alabama, up all the way through here. So this is our current radar. And down here is rain right now. This is not snow. But it is actually expected that parts of near Tallahassee, where they just saw their first snow in, I think, since I've been born at least, I think in several decades, I think it was 3 decades if I'm not mistaken, they could actually see some flurries again tomorrow, or early tomorrow morning on the tail end of this system that will be affecting us. So that would be a very unique opportunity for them, hopefully not causing too many issues down there. But my main point of showing this is to see, okay, here we have the radar, we have some key points here. We have the heavy rain down in Louisiana, we have a pretty solid, pretty light reflectivity values here, but we have a solid makeup down here in central Alabama compared to here. We have this broken up, and it's expected that this will fill in tomorrow as it passes over the mountains. But I show you this because I'm about to go to a model image, and then we're going to see if it's initializing that properly. And this is the NAM, the North American model, and about the same time here. And you can see that for the most part it is picking up that southern Louisiana heavier stuff, and then down through central Alabama still picking that up, but it does have a much more rigorous kind of filling in here in the eastern Tennessee and approaching the Appalachian Mountains. So that doesn't really mean anything for the long run now. It's just interesting to see how it initializes and how it picks that up. On the radar, it is looking like there's quite a bit more moisture down here in terms of down into Mississippi as well. That's not quite being picked up here. Looks like the precipitation's more in here, but all that's for naught as long as the system continues to develop as expected, which it is. And we have our jet streak that's going to be settled over here, giving us extra lift and kind of pumping the system up and developing it tomorrow. Everything's still going as planned. It's just interesting to see how the models initialize and how that can have effects into the future. But here's kind of a future cast. So this is a 3-kilometer resolution model, so it's pretty much the highest resolution we can get with this kind of model. And this is showing at about 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So you can see this precip here. Here's Forsyth County, Guilford County, Davidson County. So you can see that starting to kind of develop anywhere around 5 or so a.m., 4 to 6 a.m., and then that kind of slowly develops and just kind of creeps over toward the triangle area. Here's Wake County, Durham County, Orange, so Chapel Hill, Durham, Greensboro, Burlington, all of them would be in snow by this about 9 a.m. time, and then it just kind of hovers and slowly works its way eastward, finally tapering off, getting out of the triangle area by about 6 or 7 p.m. So it's looking like a longer duration system than originally thought. It's a quick mover relative to usual winter storm systems, but it's going to quickly move off and could leave a considerable amount of snow, namely anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of snow across a pretty large swath of central North Carolina. So you saw that. So here's just another model. So this is the HRRR, the High Resolution Rapid Refresh, often called the HRR or HRR model. So Here's just another I'm going to drag along here, and this only goes out to 15 hours, so this won't complete the entire storm, but you can see at the end of the HRR model, the HRRR run, you can see it's starting to impact the triad, and then maybe a little bit of mixing in here. Onset of a rain is very possible, transitioning to a snow, that's totally possible, and if you wake up to some drizzle in the morning, it'll probably very quickly change over to snow, but don't be surprised to see that onset as rain. Depends on how quickly the atmosphere cools and what exactly the dynamics of the storm that's going on. But onset of rain, especially east of maybe the US 1 corridor here, is totally possible before it changes over to purely snow. But most of the area should be enveloped in snow by, here's our 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9, 10, 11, 12, 1 p.m. So, by noontime tomorrow, all of central North Carolina should be under a band of, light to moderate snow. And then just another model view just for consensus reasons. This is 1 a.m., 2 a.m. This is a Kona 60-hour model, so it's yet another idea of what's going to happen. You can see this all the way down, exiting out of the Atlanta area, down in upstate South Carolina, up through central North Carolina, and then building in, if I get my cursor out of the way, moving over central North Carolina and working its way along the I-95 corridor, where it seems like once it kind of hits that I-95 corridor right in here, it kind of starts to fizzle out. And we'll continue to dump some light to moderate snow, but will eventually fizzle out by about 6 or 7 p.m. tomorrow evening. So that's what the situation looks like. It looks like the amounts are right on target. We've kind of reached that upper threshold. You might have seen amounts kind of creep up and up today to 1 to 2 inches, to 2 to 3, to 3 to 4 inches, but really it's not going to be, theoretically speaking, probably not going to see more than 5 to 6 inches anywhere, because this will be such a limited amount of time and a limited snowstorm. If this was a multi-hour, multi-day event, there could be some bigger snow totals, but some of the snow bands that do set up could be quite heavy and could dump locally higher amounts, but overall expect 2 to 4 inches of snow. But the main impact from this is just going to be the roads, and I show you this slide again. Download this app if you have not already. Search Ready NC, all one word. It doesn't have to be capitalized. On the App Store, if you iOS device, Apple device, or Google Play, and you can look at current weather conditions, real-time traffic conditions on this app, which will be will be imperative tomorrow morning if you must commute I know most area schools are closed now, and they've made that call, which I think is a very wise decision. But the real-time traffic conditions are imperative to know. Power outages still don't look very likely because it looks like this snow is going to go on. There could be some isolated power outages, but there is no ice anticipated with this system. There could be some sleet mixing in, but it doesn't look like a ice storm. Certainly not going to be an ice storm. This is going to be a mainly snow event, so power outages should be limited, but in areas where you have maybe heavier snow accumulating on maybe some power lines or trees, some older trees with some weaker branches, there could be some isolated power outages. Certainly a possibility, but it looks like the main problem with this is going to be roads. I plan on getting up early to kind of track this storm as it goes along, since I have had classes canceled for myself tomorrow at NC State, so I will be tracking it along. So feel free to message me on Facebook, tweet me at AndrewsWX on Twitter. You can message me on YouTube. You can email me if you want at AndrewsWXcenter@gmail.com. And I will be, I may put together another video tomorrow morning during the event to see how it's going, but the overall synopsis, I'll end on this slide once again. Winter storm warning for central North Carolina for anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of snow, kind of that whole swath of central North Carolina, all of National Weather Service Raleigh's forecast area. And, Winston-Salem, Greensboro, Raleigh, Burlington, Lexington, Troy, Albemarle, Southern Pines, you're all in this. Fayetteville, up to Oxford, Henderson, Durham, Chapel Hill, if I haven't said that already, all in play here for about 2 to 4 inches of snow. Some people are going to get less, some may get an inch, some may get up to 5 inches. It's all going to depend on where the heaviest snow band set up, which we won't know until it's here. But altogether, I hope you stay warm, stay safe, and avoid travel if at all possible. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. In the meantime, stay safe and be sure to send snow reports. And one more thing, I will keep a post open for snow reports if you want to add them, and I can pass it along to the National Weather Service, or you can do it yourself and just tweet at National Weather Service Raleigh, at NWS Raleigh on Twitter, or there's a form that I'll also share where you can submit your snow reports. So stay warm, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next video.